What happens when the people who built their entire public image on their truth get exposed by their own voices? And what do you do when the tapes meant to protect you end up detonating everything instead? All right, take a breath, because this story doesn't just unravel, it peels slowly, uncomfortably. And by the end, you're left staring at something that doesn't look anything like the fairy tale we were sold. So here's the vibe in Hollywood right now. And trust me, it's icy. The whispers have turned into full-on side eyes. People are quietly reassessing their proximity to the Sussexes. Not publicly, of course. Nobody wants to be the first one to say it out loud. But behind closed doors, the question keeps popping up. Who wants to be associated with a couple whose private conversations might suddenly become public property? Invitations that used to flood in are not flooding anymore. Partnerships are paused, which is PR language for we're backing away slowly and hoping no one notices. Even Netflix, the place that once handed them a golden megaphone, is reportedly getting nervous. And when Netflix gets nervous, you know something's gone sideways. The Sussexes brand? It's starting to look less like a power couple and more like a liability. And if you think that's where it stops, oh no, this is where it actually starts getting ugly. Because word on the street is Harry didn't just sit on those recordings. Allegedly, he passed them on to someone who didn't feel like playing protector anymore. And the moment that rumor hit, the entire mood shifted from awkward to explosive. Apparently, when Meghan found out the tapes were out there, she absolutely lost it. And I mean lost it. Sources describe screaming, accusations flying, lawyers being demanded at top volume inside that massive mansion. No calm strategy meeting, no quiet regroup, just full meltdown mode. And honestly, you can almost picture it. But here's the part that really caught people off guard. It wasn't just hearing Harry's voice that stunned everyone. It was how he sounded. Raw, worn down. You could hear the exhaustion baked into every sentence. Regret, confusion. This wasn't a man confidently standing in his truth. This was someone realizing in real time that his entire life had turned into a trap of his own making. And suddenly it stopped feeling like gossip. It started feeling tragic. Hollywood smelled blood immediately. Netflix, Spotify, even people connected to Tyler Perry's orbit started reassessing everything. Those once glorious deals, they went from career-making to career-ending overnight. One PR insider flat out said it, being associated with them now is professional suicide. Meanwhile, Meghan's emotional arc went from furious to frantic. She was calling Tyler Perry non-stop, leaving voicemails, switching tones, polite one minute, desperate the next, begging, pleading, trying to regain control of a narrative that was slipping fast. But Perry wasn't interested. Instead, he dropped a statement that landed like a flamethrower. You can't hide behind empathy when your truth is built on other people's pain. That line went viral instantly. Screenshots everywhere, reaction videos, peace thinkers. It was over in one sentence. And that's when Meghan's team went into full emergency mode. Operation Spin, damage control on steroids. They launched what insiders called Project Redemption, a full-blown PR blitz designed to make her the victim again. Stories were fed to magazines about betrayal, devastation, exploitation by powerful men. The wounded warrior narrative made a comeback. And for about 5 minutes, it almost worked, until more clips surfaced. These weren't explosive in a legal sense, but emotionally devastating. Allegedly, they showed Meghan coaching Harry, telling him what to say, how to frame moments, when to emphasize pain, when to pause for effect. It wasn't illegal. It was worse. It was calculated. It confirmed what critics had been saying for years, that this wasn't organic. It was scripted. The image cracked, then it shattered. Harry basically disappeared. Not physically vanished, but emotionally checked out. Friends said he was holed up, isolated. Some even whispered he'd gone back to the UK for a bit, reconnecting with old army friends, trying to remember who he was before everything became a performance. Meghan, though, she doubled down. She tried to secure emergency interviews, Oprah, Gayle King, the big guns. And here's the kicker, even Oprah's people said no. One producer reportedly told her, "We already told your truth once. It didn't age well." That had to sting. The tabloids went feral. Headlines were ruthless. YouTubers dissected every second of the audio. TikTok creators mocked the PR attempts mercilessly. For the first time, the narrative wasn't theirs to control. It was controlling them. And then came the real plot twist. Tyler Perry didn't just have tapes. He gave a journalist a detailed account of what he witnessed while they stayed at his place. According to him, this wasn't a couple healing. This was a couple performing, rehearsing, scripting every tear, every confession, every leak. It wasn't a sanctuary, it was a rehearsal space. That story hit like a nuclear bomb. Suddenly, they weren't misunderstood royals searching for peace. They were a walking PR laboratory. Everything curated, everything calculated. Hollywood ran for the hills. Invitations vanished. Brand deals froze. Meghan's new product line shelved. Quietly. No announcement, just gone. And while Meghan fought to salvage her image, Harry was reportedly unraveling. He felt used, exposed, humiliated. He started questioning everything. Was any of it real, or had his entire adult life been one long performance? Sources say things got really bad, like worst fight ever bad. Accusations flew. Meghan accused him of abandoning her. Harry snapped back. He stormed out and didn't come home for 2 days. When he finally reappeared at a charity event alone, cameras caught everything. The slumped shoulders, the empty stare. That sparkle everyone used to talk about? Gone. Even the royal family, champions of silence, couldn't resist a subtle dig. King Charles's spokesperson released a statement emphasizing integrity and discretion. Translation, "We warned you." Tyler Perry didn't gloat. He didn't need to. He posted one cryptic line on Instagram. Truth doesn't need a microphone. It just needs time. And everyone knew exactly what he meant. This time, the world didn't rush to defend Meghan. They just stopped. Harry is reportedly talking to William again, slowly, carefully. But Meghan, she's isolated. Her empire is crumbling. Her husband is slipping away. One headline summed it up perfectly. Tyler Perry gave him shelter once. This time, he gave them truth, and it broke them both. The tapes didn't just expose secrets, they exposed who they'd become. And just when you think it can't get worse, the tapes actually drop. Not all of them, but enough. And wow, they were bad, like career-ending bad. The kind that permanently changes how people see you. Remember how a lot of folks felt sympathy for Harry? That image evaporates fast. He comes off entitled, bitter, constantly complaining about the press, the rules, his family. The things he says about William and Charles, brutal, vicious. And Meghan, the recordings paint her as a social climber who saw the royal family as a launch pad. The way she talks about Kate is shockingly catty. The accent she allegedly uses while imitating the Queen, painfully cringe. You can hear the disdain dripping off every word. She practically admits she leaned into the victim role from day one. The worst part isn't just what they say, it's how they say it. The arrogance, the entitlement. They genuinely believed they were smarter than everyone else, that they could outmaneuver the media, the monarchy, the public. Turns out, not so much. The fallout has been brutal. Netflix is scrambling, Spotify is done, and the biggest casualty isn't money, it's credibility. Who's going to believe them now? Their entire brand was authenticity. Turns out, it was smoke and mirrors. The royal family is playing it cool, but let's be real. This vindicates everything they've said for years. Champagne is probably popping somewhere behind palace walls.
So what now? Can they recover? Honestly, it doesn't look good. This isn't a temporary scandal. This is character exposure. And once people see that, you can't unsee it. They thought they could have it all: titles, fame, money, total freedom. But life doesn't work like that. Eventually, the truth catches up. I'm not saying I feel sorry for them. They made these choices, but it is sad. They had a massive platform. They could have done real good. Instead, they chased control and clout. And here we are. If you're still watching, hit like, subscribe if you haven't. Drop your thoughts in the comments because I know you've got opinions. What really sealed this whole thing wasn't just the content of the tapes, it was the timing. These didn't surface during some chaotic, messy early phase when everyone was still figuring things out. They dropped after years of speeches about healing, growth, boundaries, compassion, after endless interviews about breaking cycles and protecting mental health. So when people finally heard what was said behind closed doors, the disconnect was jarring. It felt like watching someone preach clean living while hiding cartons of cigarettes in the garage. And that's why the reaction was so sharp. Not loud outrage at first, but something worse: disbelief turning into quiet disgust. Hollywood hates one thing more than scandal, and that's hypocrisy that makes them look foolish for backing you. You could practically feel the industry doing the math in real time. Agents calling assistants, assistants calling publicists, publicists saying, "Let's put a pin in that," which again is code for absolutely not. What's wild is how fast the energy flipped. Just months earlier, Harry was still being framed as this wounded prince trying to break free from a toxic system. Now, the narrative hardened. People started asking uncomfortable questions. Was he actually trapped, or was he just angry he wasn't in charge? Was he manipulated, or was he fully complicit and happy to let someone else take the heat? And once that question enters the chat, sympathy drains fast. Meanwhile, Meghan's strategy didn't evolve. She kept playing the same notes: victimhood, betrayal, misogyny, media cruelty. But the audience had changed. People weren't hostile, they were tired. And when an audience gets tired, no amount of dramatic reframing brings them back. Every new PR story felt louder, sharper, more desperate, and desperation is the one thing you can't polish. What also didn't help is that insiders started talking, quietly at first, former collaborators hinting that meetings were challenging, that feedback wasn't welcome, that nothing moved unless it served the narrative. Little crumbs, but enough to form a pattern. And once a pattern forms, the internet connects dots faster than any investigative journalist ever could. Harry, on the other hand, looked like he was shrinking in real time. People who saw him recently said he barely spoke, that he seemed distracted, fragile, almost startled by normal conversation, like someone who's finally hearing his own thoughts without a script guiding him. There's something deeply unsettling about watching a person realize they don't know where the performance ends and the real self begins. And then there's the family angle, because as much as Harry has tried to distance himself from the royals, there's still the shadow in every frame. William staying silent, Kate continuing on like nothing happened, the monarchy doing what it does best, outlasting the chaos without reacting to it. That contrast did more damage than any statement ever could. Silence, when paired with consistency, starts to look like strength. Another thing people aren't talking about enough is how irreversible this feels. Hollywood loves a comeback story. They'll forgive almost anything if you show humility and self-awareness. But that requires admitting fault, and so far, there's been none of that. Just deflection, reframing, blame shifting. No, we messed up. No, we misjudged things. No, we hurt people. Just more storytelling. And at some point, storytelling without accountability starts to feel manipulative. You can see it in how brands are behaving. No dramatic breakups, no fiery press releases, just quiet exits, projects delayed indefinitely, emails unanswered. That's the coldest response there is. And look, it's not like people suddenly became royalists overnight. Plenty of folks still criticize the monarchy, but this situation forced a comparison no one expected. On one side, an institution accused of being cold, rigid, outdated. On the other, two people who promised transparency and compassion, but were caught scripting emotions and weaponizing pain. That contrast did not land in their favor. What's especially rough is that Harry seems to be waking up to it now. Too late, maybe, but waking up nonetheless, reaching out to William, reconnecting with old friends, trying to ground himself in something real. And you can't help but wonder how disorienting that must be, to realize you burned bridges for a life that now feels hollow. As for Meghan, isolation is the word that keeps coming up. Fewer allies, fewer defenders willing to go on record. The ones who remain are careful, vague, non-committal. That's never a good sign. And the public? They've moved on emotionally, even if the headlines keep churning. There's no outrage cycle here anymore, just a collective shrug. And indifference is the hardest thing to recover from. Because scandal fades, mockery fades, but once people stop caring, it's almost impossible to pull them back in. This whole saga ends up feeling less like a takedown and more like a slow implosion. No villains twirling mustaches, no dramatic courtroom scenes, just choices stacking on top of choices until the weight collapses everything. It's messy, it's sad, and honestly, it didn't have to be this way. If they'd stepped back earlier, if they'd stopped trying to control every frame, if they'd chosen substance over spectacle, we might be having a very different conversation right now. Instead, we're watching the aftermath. So yeah, that's where things stand. No neat ending, no redemption arc queued up yet. Just a reminder that image without integrity eventually eats itself. If you've stuck with me this far, seriously, thank you. Hit like if this made you think, subscribe if you want to keep unpacking stories like this together, and drop your take in the comments because I know you've got opinions. I appreciate you being here.